There's a kind of darkness on the highway that no headlight can fight. A darkness that feels like it's watching you back. Truckers don't talk about it openly. The blackouts, the sudden silence, the nights when the world around your rig just disappears. But every driver who's lived long enough out here has faced that one moment when the road feels wrong, when the mirrors show shadows that shouldn't be there, when something sits in the passenger seat even though you know you're alone. These stories come from those nights. Before we start, take a breath, and if you're new here, hit subscribe. You don't want to be alone the next time the dark decides to follow you home. I've been running long haul for almost 19 years now. Freightliner Cascadia, 13-speed manual. She's old enough to creak when the temperature drops, but she's never left me stranded. I was hauling frozen food westbound on I-80 through southern Wyoming, the kind of run nobody argues over in January. Blizzard season. Crosswinds that shove 40 tons sideways. Wideouts that erase the road 10 feet past your hood. It was January 17th, just after 11:40 p.m. I remember because I just logged my last fuel stop outside Rawlins and was pushing toward Rock Springs before the storm shut the interstate down completely. The sky wasn't snowing so much as grinding itself into powder. The headlights carved 2 narrow tunnels through the dark, and everything outside those beams just disappeared. No stars, no moon, just the hum of the engine, the whisper of wind along the trailer walls, and the low clatter of chains biting into ice. CB was dead. Channel 19 had gone quiet an hour earlier, which never happens unless things are bad or people are scared. Even the weather radio had dissolved into static. Inside the cab, it was warm, too warm. Diesel heat, stale coffee, the faint smell of wet wool from my gloves drying on the dash. My hands were numb anyway, fingers stiff around the wheel from fighting the crosswind. The truck vibrated constantly, a low tremor you feel more than hear. That's when I saw her. At first, I thought it was a reflector post bending in the wind. Then the shape moved. She stood on the right shoulder, barely visible through the snow, waving both arms overhead. No coat, no hat, just a thin, light-colored dress whipping around her legs like paper. Her hair was plastered to her face, dark and wet. I checked my mirrors, my speed, the road ahead. Everything in me said don't stop. Wyoming DOT drills that into you. People don't survive long outside in storms like this. If she was real, she wouldn't last 5 minutes. But she was real. As I rolled closer, my headlights caught her face. Blue lips, eyes wide, white against the dark. Panic so raw it punched straight through the glass. I eased onto the shoulder, hazards clicking loud in the silence. Air brakes sighed like the truck was tired too. Snow hammered the windshield sideways. The moment my tires stopped crunching, she was at the passenger door. She didn't knock. She just pulled it open and climbed in. Cold hit me like someone dumped ice water across the cab. The temperature dropped instantly, my breath fogging hard. She sat stiff in the seat, shaking so violently the door rattled. I slammed it shut and cranked the heat to full. "Jesus," I said. "Are you hurt?" She didn't answer. Her skin, I noticed that next. Her arm brushed mine as she settled, and it was ice cold, not numb from the cold, dead freezer cold, like touching frozen meat. The cab smelled different too. Not sweat or snow. Something earthy, damp, like soil that had been frozen and thawed too many times. "Where you headed?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. "Training. Keep people calm." She turned slowly and pointed forward, toward the white nothing beyond the windshield. "Just up the road," she whispered. Her voice sounded wrong, thin, hollow, like it didn't belong inside a warm cab. I pulled back onto the highway. We drove. 10 minutes passed. Maybe more. Time stretches in storms like that. Snow thickened, wind rocking the trailer hard enough to make the chains scream. The heater ran nonstop, but the cab never warmed back up. She kept shivering. I tried again. "There's a rest area closed about 8 miles ahead. Town's further than that." She didn't look at me this time. "Just up the road," she said again. I glanced over to tell her I'd radio for help once we got signal. The seat was empty. No movement. No sound. just the indentation in the vinyl slowly rising back into shape. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I'd black out. The passenger door was closed. Locked. The window was frosted from the inside. On the seat lay a dark, wet stain, soaking into the fabric. Slush mixed with something darker. The smell hit me full then. Frozen dirt, old leaves, iron. I hit the brakes. The trailer fishtailed. ABS chattered violently. The wheel vibrated in my hands like it wanted to tear free. I eased off just enough to keep control and rolled to a stop, half jackknifed on the shoulder. Hazards flashing. Engine idling rough. I checked the sleeper. Through open cabinets. Looked under the bunk. Nothing. My heart was hammering so loud I couldn't hear the wind anymore. I leaned down to check the floorboard. That's when the cab went quiet. Not storm quiet. Dead quiet. Like the world had been muted. I slowly raised my eyes to the mirror. Her face filled the rear window, pressed flat against the glass from outside. Skin pale, almost gray. Eyes wide and desperate. Mouth stretched open in a scream I couldn't hear. Frost bloomed outward where her breath hit the glass, cracking in spiderweb patterns. She wasn't trying to get in. She was being dragged backward, her face sliding across the glass, leaving streaks of frost and something darker behind. Something pulled her out of view. I don't remember shifting. Don't remember signaling. My training took over, clutch, throttle, wheel straight, pedal down. The truck lurched forward, chains tearing at the ice. The rear window disappeared into white. I didn't stop, didn't slow down, didn't look in the mirrors again. I drove until the storm thinned and the lights of Rock Springs bled through the snow like a hallucination. I pulled straight into the first truck stop I saw and sat there shaking for 10 minutes before I could even unbuckle. Police came. Wyoming state troopers. They inspected the truck. The cab. They found the stain. One of them went very quiet when he saw it. Later, inside, over bad coffee and fluorescent lights, they told me about that stretch of I-80. Mile markers that disappear in storms. Cars that slide off and aren't found until spring. 3 women over the last decade. All frozen to death. All wearing dresses not meant for winter. All found facing the road. All matched her description. I still run that route. And every winter, when the CB goes silent and the snow starts swallowing the highway, I lock my doors. Because some hitchhikers don't need a ride. They're just trying to go home. I've been driving long haul for 16 years. Flatbed, reefer, dry van. I've pulled all of it through weather most people only see on the news. Snow doesn't scare me. Ice doesn't scare me. What scares me is silence where there shouldn't be any. This happened on US Route 2 in northern Montana. Late winter, the kind of stretch that doesn't forgive mistakes. No trees tall enough to block the wind. No towns close enough to matter. Just open land and sky pressed together by cold. It was 2:13 a.m., according to the dash clock. I remember because I just finished a voice note to my dispatcher about delays. I was hauling general freight eastbound, 43,000 pounds, Cascadia humming steady beneath me. Wind was already strong, pushing snow sideways, rattling the mirrors. The whiteout didn't arrive gradually. It dropped. 1 second I had faint road reflectors and ghosted headlights ahead. The next, it was like someone threw a sheet over the windshield. Visibility went to 0, not low, not bad, gone. No horizon. No shoulder. No sense of movement except the vibration in the wheel. I eased off the throttle immediately. Training kicks in when panic wants the wheel. I feathered the brakes, checked mirrors I couldn't see out of, and guided the truck toward what I hoped was the shoulder. Air brake side when I finally stopped. Wind slammed the trailer broadside, rocking the cab just enough to remind me how small I was out there. I shut down everything except the engine. The cab felt suddenly tight. Warm diesel heat fighting a cold that wanted in. Smell of coffee gone stale hours earlier. The faint metallic scent of snow forced into seams by the wind. CB crackled once. Then nothing. Weather radio dissolved into pure static. Phone, no service. I told myself this was normal. Montana storms swallow sound. Eat signals. You wait it out. That's how you survive. I sat there, hands resting on the wheel, feeling the engine idle through my boots. Then I heard the tapping. It came from the driver's side window. Slow, deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. Not hail, not ice. Too controlled, too patient. I stared into the white wall beyond the glass. Snow moved, but nothing else. No shape, no shadow. Another tap. My skin crawled. Out here, nobody walks up to a truck in a whiteout. Nobody survives long enough to try. I didn't move, didn't speak. Then a voice came through the glass. Calm, close. Hey, let me in. Sounded normal, almost friendly. No panic, no strain. I just need to get warm. I swallowed. My breath fogged the windshield, thick and fast. The voice didn't sound like it was shouting over the wind. It sounded like it was standing in a quiet room. I leaned closer to the window without touching it, scanning for breath fog, a silhouette, anything. Nothing. Please, the voice said again. It's cold out here. Every rule I'd ever learned screamed, don't open that door. Not in a whiteout. Not without seeing who it is. Not when your gut tightens for no clear reason. I stayed still. The tapping stopped. Silence rushed in so hard my ears rang. Then, tap, 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 passenger side. My head snapped right. Snow churned outside that window too, same blinding white. The tapping was closer now, sharper against the glass. I know you're in there, the voice said. Same tone, same calm. I can hear your engine. My heart thudded against my ribs. I hadn't touched the throttle. The engine idled low, almost buried under the wind. I said nothing. The tapping moved again. This time from behind me, the back of the cab. A hollow knock, muffled by insulation and metal. Then another, like something pacing, circling. I could feel it now, not through sound, but through the truck itself. Subtle shifts in weight, the suspension creaking unevenly, as if pressure moved from one side to the other. Open the door, the voice said. It was closer, everywhere. I don't want to freeze. The words were right, but the tone wasn't anymore. Something underneath had changed, like anger wrapped tight in politeness. The truck rocked harder. Wind, I told myself. Just wind. Then the voice dropped. You should have let me in. The cab shook violently. Not a gust, not a push, a shove. The steering wheel jerked under my hands. Loose items rattled in the dash. My coffee cup tipped and spilled, hot liquid sloshing across my leg. I barely felt it. The tapping became pounding. All sides now, metal popping, glass humming under pressure. My breath came shallow and fast, chest tight like the air had thinned. I didn't pray. I didn't scream. I did what years on the road taught me to do when everything goes wrong. I acted. Key turned. Engine revved higher, vibration deep and alive. I released the brakes and rolled forward, blind, steering by instinct and muscle memory. The pounding followed. For a second, I felt the truck tilt, as if something climbed onto the step rail. The voice roared then, no longer pretending. You don't leave me out here. I floored it. Chains screamed. Tires fought for grip. The cab lurched forward into nothing. White swallowed the windshield, but motion returned, the only thing that mattered. The pounding stopped. The voice cut off mid-sound. I drove for what felt like hours, but couldn't have been more than 15 minutes. When the storm thinned just enough for shapes to exist again, I pulled off at the first wide turnout I could find and slammed the brakes. Hazards flashing, heart hammering, hands shaking so badly I had to sit on them. I didn't move for a long time. When I finally stepped out, the cold stabbed straight through my jacket. Wind howled around me, but the snow had eased. I walked the length of the truck. Every window was coated in ice. Pressed into that ice were handprints, dozens of them, all different sizes, some smeared, some perfectly clear, palms and fingers frozen in place like they'd tried to push through the glass. I checked the ground. The snow around the truck was untouched. No footprints, nothing leading away, nothing leading toward, just my tire tracks and empty land. I reported it. Of course I did. Troopers came later when the road reopened. They photographed everything, asked careful questions. They didn't tell me much, just that other drivers had called in voices during whiteouts. Knocking, begging, anger when ignored. No bodies, no explanations. I still drive Montana, but when the snow gets thick enough to erase the world, and something asks to come inside, I keep both hands on the wheel, and I don't answer. I've been driving long haul for almost 2 decades. Reefer mostly. Cold freight doesn't wait, and neither do storms. I've learned how to read the road by feel, how to sense black ice before it announces itself, how to ride out weather instead of fighting it. What happened to me in northern Minnesota, I still can't explain using anything I learned out there. It was late January, just past midnight, running Highway 53 north of Cook, hauling medical supplies toward International Falls. The temperature had dropped fast, -20 before wind chill. Snow wasn't supposed to hit hard until morning. Forecast said flurries. Forecasts lie. The snow started light, just enough to blur the reflectors. Then the wind picked up, driving it sideways, filling the beam of my headlights until it felt like I was tunneling through salt. The cab stayed warm, engine steady, tires humming on packed snow. CB chatter thinned out as trucks peeled off toward rest areas. By 12:47 a.m., I was alone on that stretch. That's when the trailer started to pull. It wasn't dramatic, just a subtle sideways drift, the kind you correct without thinking. I eased the wheel, feathered the throttle. The back end slid anyway. The truck didn't spin. It didn't jackknife. It just slipped, like the road vanished beneath it. The shoulder gave way with a dull crunch, and suddenly I was tilted hard to the right, snow spraying past the windshield as the rig settled into a ditch. Silence followed. Not engine silence, I was still idling, but road silence. No passing traffic. No wind howl. Just the faint tick of cooling metal and my own breathing. I killed the engine. The cold crept in immediately, pressing against the glass like it wanted inside. The cab smelled of diesel and burnt coffee, the heater ticking as it cooled. I checked my phone. Dead. Battery gone, no warning. I sat there for a long minute weighing options. No signal anyway. I knew that road, sparse traffic at night, could be hours before someone came through, and longer before a tow reached me. I grabbed my coat, gloves, flashlight. The moment I opened the door, the cold punched the air from my lungs. Snow swallowed sound. Pines loomed on either side of the road, tall and black, their branches heavy and unmoving. I locked the cab out of habit. Then I started walking. The road vanished behind me after maybe 50 yards, swallowed by drifting snow. My flashlight beam cut narrow paths through the trees, lighting frozen bark and low brush. My boots crunched loud in the silence. Every breath burned. I walked for nearly an hour. Time stretches in cold like that. Your thoughts slow. Your body complains in pieces. First fingers, then toes, then everything at once. Just as my legs started to feel heavy, I saw a light. Faint, steady. It glowed between the trees like a held breath. I pushed toward it, heart lifting despite myself. A cabin took shape as I got closer, small, old, logs darkened by age. Smoke drifted lazily from the chimney, flattening under the weight of the storm. Warmth rolled off it in waves. I knocked. The door opened almost immediately. An old man stood there, thin, shoulders hunched, white beard hanging to his chest, eyes deep-set and unreadable. He didn't say a word, just stepped back and gestured me inside. The heat hit me like a wall. Not comforting heat. Heavy heat. The kind that makes your skin prickle. The air smelled of burnt wood. And something else underneath. Sweet and sour at the same time. Old smoke. Old things. I stepped in. The door closed behind me with a solid thud. The room was simple. One table. One bed. A stone fireplace roaring loud enough to drown the storm outside. In front of it sat a wooden rocking chair. The old man lowered himself into it and began to rock. Slow. Even. I thanked him. Told him my truck slid off the road. Asked if he had a phone. He didn't answer. His eyes stayed fixed on the fire. I rubbed my hands together, feeling pins and needles as warmth returned painfully. My ears rang softly. Sweat formed under my jacket despite the cold clinging to my bones. That's when I noticed the walls. Photographs. Dozens of them. Old black and white prints. Some yellowed with age. Others clearer, newer. Every one showed the same cabin interior. Same fireplace. Same rocking chair. But the person in the chair was always different. Men, women, young, old. All sitting stiff, eyes wide, faces caught mid-fear. Some looked frozen in shock. Others cried. One clutched his chest like he couldn't breathe. I stepped closer, my stomach tightening. The backgrounds never changed. The chair never moved. Only the people did. I turned back toward the old man. He rocked. The wood creaked in rhythm with the storm pressing against the cabin walls. "You live out here alone?" I asked. Nothing. The fire popped loudly, sending sparks up the chimney. I walked toward the door. My hand met solid wood. No handle. No seams. Just logs where the door should have been. My breath caught. I pressed harder, scanning the wall, flashlight beam shaking. There was no door. Behind me, the rocking slowed. The old man finally spoke. "The storm always brings someone new." His voice was dry, thin, like it hadn't been used in a long time. I turned slowly. He was no longer looking at the fire. He was looking at me. I backed away, heart hammering, heat suddenly unbearable. The walls seemed closer now. The fire louder. The air thick enough to choke on. "What is this place?" I asked. He smiled. Not kindly, not cruelly, just knowingly. I glanced back at the photographs. One of them was different, newer, color. It showed a man in a reflective jacket, sitting in the rocking chair, terror etched across his face. My jacket, my face. The rocking stopped. The old man stood. The fire flared. Cold flooded me then. Not from outside, but from inside my chest, spreading fast. I don't remember how I ran. I don't remember breaking through the wall. I remember stumbling through snow, lungs burning, flashlight gone, hands numb, fear driving me faster than sense. I woke up in a hospital in Duluth. State troopers found me wandering along Highway 53 at dawn, half frozen, babbling about a cabin that didn't exist. They towed my truck out later that day. No cabin within 10 miles. No tracks in the woods. No structure on record. Sometimes on winter nights, when the snow comes down heavy and the CB goes quiet, I swear I smell burnt wood in my cab. And I keep driving, because somewhere out there, in the pines, the storm is always waiting for someone new. I've been driving long haul for 17 years. Northeast corridors mostly, steel, paper, grocery freight, runs that blur together after a while. You learn the roads by muscle memory. You don't need signs anymore. You feel where you are by the way the asphalt hums under the tires, by how the curves tighten, by where the trees lean in. That's how I know something was wrong on Route 17 in upstate New York, just east of Elmira, on a night when the snow came down hard enough to erase familiarity. It was 1:08 a.m., mid-February. I was hauling dry goods toward Binghamton, nothing urgent, just steady miles. The storm had rolled in faster than predicted, thick flakes, wet and heavy, swallowing reflectors and softening the edges of the world. Not a whiteout yet, but close enough to keep both hands locked on the wheel. Inside the cab, it was warm and tight, heater humming, coffee gone cold in the cup holder. Diesel smell faint but constant. The windshield wipers beat a slow, tired rhythm, pushing snow aside just long enough for the headlights to carve a narrow path ahead. CB chatter was thin. A couple of tired voices earlier, now gone. Channel 19 dissolved into low static between bursts of wind. I passed mile marker 47 without thinking much of it. Bent post. Reflective numbers half scraped off. I remember because I always noticed damaged signs. Mental notes from years of watching the road decay inch by inch. 10 minutes later, I passed it again. Same bent post. Same scuffed numbers. I frowned, checked my speed. 55. Steady. No turns taken. No exits missed. Snow can mess with your sense of time. Fatigue does worse. I told myself I'd drifted mentally, Maybe confused it with another marker. Happens. I kept driving. The road stayed straight. Pines pressed in on both sides, their branches sagging under snow, forming a dark tunnel that swallowed my headlights faster than usual. The temperature dropped enough that the snow sharpened, flakes stinging when they hit the glass. That's when I saw it a third time. Mile 47. Same bend, same scrape, same shallow drift piled at its base. My stomach tightened. I slowed, eyes flicking to the odometer. It was climbing normally, miles ticking by, fuel gauge steady but slowly falling, needle inching lower like it always does. I reached for my GPS. The screen lagged, then refreshed, and spun. The arrow turned in slow circles, recalculating endlessly, like it couldn't decide which way was forward. "Come on," I muttered, tapping it with a gloved finger. Static hissed from the CB. No voices, no weather alert, just empty sound. I checked mirrors. Snow churned behind me, erasing my tracks almost immediately. The road ahead looked the same as the road behind. No landmarks, no exits, no rest areas, just trees and falling snow. I signaled and made a careful U-turn, easing the wheel, mindful of the trailer swing. The maneuver felt right. Textbook. I straightened out and drove. 5 minutes later, the headlights caught reflective numbers. 47. The bent post leaned toward me like it was waiting. My breath fogged the windshield harder this time. I wiped it away with my sleeve, heart thudding faster than it should. I stopped, hazards flashing, orange light pulsing weakly against the snow. The engine idled low, vibration traveling up through the seat into my spine. I sat there listening. Wind whispered through the trees. Snow ticked softly against the hood. Somewhere metal creaked as it cooled. No other engines. No movement. I stepped out. Cold slapped my face instantly, sharp and wet. Snow soaked my boots as I walked toward the sign. The reflective surface was scratched exactly the way I remembered. Even the bolt heads were rusted in the same pattern. I turned slowly, scanning the road. That's when I noticed the cars. 3 of them, parked haphazardly along the shoulder ahead, half buried, snow packed high around the wheels. 1 sedan, 1 SUV, 1 older pickup. They hadn't been there before. I walked to the first one, boots crunching loud in the quiet. The windows were opaque with frost. I wiped a circle clean and peered inside. Empty. Seatbelt hanging loose. Door unlocked. No footprints leading away. The second car was the same. Empty. Cold. Abandoned in a hurry. My hands trembled as I approached the third. The pickup's windshield was clearer, ice thinner there. I leaned close. Someone sat in the driver's seat. A man. Frozen stiff. Hands clenched around the wheel so tight the knuckles looked white even through the blue-gray skin. Eyes open, wide, staring straight ahead at nothing. Ice had formed inside the cab, webbing across the dashboard like veins. On the dash, written in frost, finger-scratched and uneven, were the words, "You can't leave. It won't let you." My pulse roared in my ears. I staggered back, slipping slightly in the snow, suddenly aware of how quiet it was. No wind now, no movement. The storm had muted itself. Behind me, something shifted. Heavy, slow. The snow compressed with a deliberate crunch, not like drifting or falling. Like weight being placed carefully. I didn't turn around. Every instinct I had screamed that whatever was back there didn't need to be seen to be real. I ran. Cold burned my lungs as I tore back toward the truck, boots slipping, heart hammering so hard I thought I'd pass out. The cab loomed ahead, lights blinking steadily, a fragile island in a white sea. Another crunch sounded closer this time. The truck door felt slick under my glove as I yanked it open and hauled myself inside. I slammed it shut and locked it without thinking. The cab felt smaller now, warmer, claustrophobic. I fired the engine, threw it into gear, and drove. Didn't care which direction. Didn't check mirrors. Just drove. The road narrowed. Trees pressed closer. Snow thickened again, visibility shrinking until the world beyond the windshield ceased to exist. The headlights illuminated nothing but falling white and the immediate black of the forest edge. I passed mile marker 47 again, and again, and again. Each time, the fuel gauge dipped lower. Each time, the odometer climbed. At one point, my low fuel warning chimed softly, an almost apologetic sound. I started talking out loud, voice calm on the surface, cracking underneath, listing routes, towns, exit numbers, anything to anchor myself. The CB crackled suddenly. A voice broke through the static. Low, calm. You're not supposed to be here. I froze. Turn around. The voice continued. It doesn't like that. My mouth went dry. Who is this? Static swallowed the channel. I drove faster. The truck shook as I pushed it harder than I should have in those conditions. Chains rattled. The engine growled, protesting. The snow thinned suddenly. Not gradually. It just stopped. Ahead, the road stretched clear and dark, wet asphalt reflecting my headlights. A green sign appeared overhead, familiar and solid. Exit 48 to 1 mile. I laughed once, short, sharp, almost hysterical, and didn't slow until I was well past it. I pulled into a rest area 20 miles later and shut down. Sat there shaking until dawn crept into the sky, pale and indifferent. When I checked my odometer, my breath caught. I'd driven 200 miles since the first time I passed mile marker 47. My fuel tank agreed. The map did not. There is no stretch of Route 17 where that's possible. State police listened carefully when I reported it. Asked questions. Took notes. They didn't argue. One of them finally said they'd found abandoned vehicles there before. Drivers who claimed they were lost for hours without moving. Some never came back for their cars. I still run New York, but when I see mile marker 47 in winter, I don't slow down. And I don't look for the others who might still be driving there. I've been hauling freight through the Rockies for 15 years. Colorado winters don't scare me. Not the grades, not the wind, not the way snow stacks itself sideways against the mountains. You respect it, you slow down, you trust your training, and you get through. That night on I-70 west of Silverthorne, respect wasn't enough. It was February 3rd, just after 12:30 a.m. I was pulling a loaded drive in eastbound, coming down off the Eisenhower Tunnel toward Denver. Forecast said heavy snow, nothing unusual. Chains were ready. Tank was 3/4 full. Truck was solid. The storm hit like someone flipped a switch. Visibility dropped to maybe 15 feet. The world beyond my headlights vanished, replaced by thick white streaks hammering the windshield. Wind pushed hard from the left, rocking the trailer just enough to keep me correcting constantly. The wheel vibrated under my palms, feedback constant, exhausting. Inside the cab, it was warm and stale, diesel heat humming, coffee burnt and cold. The smell of wet rubber and road salt seeped in through the vents. CB went quiet fast. No chatter. No warnings, just static and the faint hiss of dead air. I slowed to 35, hazards on, eyes locked forward. Reflective lines on the road were already buried. I was driving by feel alone, counting seconds between corrections, trusting the grade. That's when I saw the lights behind me. Two bright headlights cut through the snow, close but steady. Above them, amber strobes flashed in a slow, deliberate rhythm. A snowplow. Relief washed through me so hard my shoulders sagged. I checked my mirrors. The plow stayed centered behind me, close enough that its lights filled the cab with yellow pulses. Not tailgating, escorting, clearing just enough to keep my lane readable. I keyed the CB. Plow behind the eastbound at mile marker 212. Appreciate the help. No response. Didn't matter. I settled in behind the comfort of those lights, letting the plow break the storm for me. Snow thinned slightly in its wake. The road felt firmer, safer. We ran like that for a long time. 30 minutes, at least. Too long. I started noticing things that didn't line up. The plow never threw snow to either side. No spray. No roar of steel on asphalt. Just headlights and strobes cutting cleanly through the storm, as if the snow parted on its own. I leaned forward, squinting through the windshield. The plow didn't have markings. No DOT logo. No numbers. No reflective striping. just a dark shape and lights. My stomach tightened. Still, the road ahead was gone, completely buried now. Snowdrifts rose where lanes should have been. Every instinct said stay with the plow. Then it pulled alongside me. The plow eased up on my left, matching speed perfectly. The driver's window was down, snow whipping past his arm as he leaned out and waved me closer. His face was pale in the glow of my headlights. Too pale. He pointed ahead, then gestured right, clear, deliberate movements. Follow me. Off the highway. I shook my head and pointed forward. Mouthed, can't see the road. He smiled. It was too wide, stretched, like he hadn't used those muscles much. He pointed again, firmer this time. I hesitated. The highway ahead was nothing but a white wall. No reflectors, no sense of direction. The plow angled right, lights swinging toward a dark opening I hadn't noticed before. An exit. No sign, no marker, just a break in the snowbank. Against my better judgment, I followed. The moment my tires left the interstate, the road changed. Narrower, rougher, snow packed hard and uneven. Trees rose immediately on both sides, tall and close, their branches heavy and unmoving. No streetlights, no reflectors. The plow stayed just ahead, amber lights flashing steadily, guiding me deeper into the forest. The road twisted gently, then sharply. My trailer groaned as I corrected, chains rattling louder now. The cab felt tighter, the darkness pressing in through the glass. I checked my GPS. No signal. The map froze, then reset, then displayed a blank grid. Okay, I muttered. Okay. The plow slowed, then stopped. Its lights kept flashing, casting long, broken shadows between the trees. Snow fell straight down now. No wind. Too quiet. The driver stepped out. He moved stiffly, like his joints didn't bend right. Each step was careful, mechanical. His boots made no sound in the snow. He walked toward my truck. I locked the doors. He stopped at my driver's window and knocked. Slow, polite, tap, tap. Close, his face looked wrong. Eyes reflecting my headlights like an animal's. Flat, bright points with no depth behind them. His smile didn't reach them. You're not supposed to leave the highway, he said. His voice was calm. Even. Too even. I followed you, I replied, keeping my voice steady. Road was buried. His head tilted slightly, like he was considering something unfamiliar. It doesn't like that, he said. The smile widened. I put the truck in reverse. The engine roared loud in the silence. The plow driver's expression didn't change as I eased back, tires crunching over packed snow. He stepped aside, unbothered. I backed up fast, heart slamming, mirrors useless in the dark. The road felt longer going backward, narrower. Branches scraped the trailer with a metallic shriek. After what felt like forever, I found a wide enough bend to swing the nose around. I floored it. The road fought me, tires slipping, trailer swaying dangerously close to jackknifing. Trees blurred past, shadows whipping by. Behind me, the plow's lights came alive again. Following. I pushed harder, engine screaming, knuckles white on the wheel. Snow thickened suddenly, storm roaring back like it had been waiting. Then, just as abruptly, it ended. The trees fell away. The highway reappeared beneath my headlights, dark and wet, lanes miraculously clear. Reflectors gleamed like they'd been polished. I shot onto the interstate and didn't slow until I was 10 miles down the road. I pulled into the first lit rest area I saw and shut down. Sat there shaking, sweat cold on my back despite the heater blasting. I called Colorado State Patrol immediately. They listened, asked me for mile markers, times, descriptions. There was a long pause on the line. Finally, the trooper said, "Sir, no snowplows were dispatched on that stretch tonight." I told him about the side road. Another pause. "3 truckers have gone missing over the last 5 years, he said carefully. All last seen exiting the highway during storms. Same general area. They never found the trucks. I still haul Colorado. But when the snow gets thick and I see flashing yellows in my mirrors, I make damn sure they're real." I've been driving long haul long enough to know when a night is going to stick with you. You feel it early before anything happens. The road goes quiet in a way that doesn't feel natural. The engine sounds louder than it should. Even the dark looks heavier, like it's pressing down instead of just sitting there. That night, I was running northbound on US Route 81 through South Dakota, hauling dry freight toward Fargo. It was late, just after 1:30 a.m., and the snow had started coming down steady, thick flakes drifting sideways in the crosswind. Not a full whiteout yet, but close enough that I had my hazards ready and my speed down. I'd fueled earlier outside Sioux Falls, topped off the thermos, checked the chains. Everything by the book. The kind of run you do half on instinct after enough years. Inside the cab, it was warm but stale. Diesel heat humming under the floor. Coffee gone bitter hours ago. The faint smell of snow melting on rubber crept in every time I adjusted the vents. The wheel vibrated lightly under my palms, a constant reminder that I was still moving, still grounded. The CB had been dead for a while. Channel 19 usually has at least one voice floating through the static. Someone complaining about weather, asking about scales, killing time. That night, it was just hiss and wind. I was passing mile markers without really registering them when the radio crackled. Not static. A voice. "Anyone out there, please?" I straightened in my seat, fingers tightening on the wheel. The signal cut in and out, buried under static, but the panic was unmistakable. "If anyone can hear me, I'm stuck. Route 81, northbound." I grabbed the mic. "Go ahead, driver. I hear you." There was a pause, long enough that I thought I'd imagined it. Then, "I can't feel my legs," the voice said. "Truck won't start. It's so cold." His breathing came through the speaker, shallow and fast, each exhale rattling like it hurt. "What's your mile marker?" I asked, already easing my speed down, eyes scanning the shoulders through the snow. Another pause. Mile marker 112, he said. "Please, I can't get warm." My stomach tightened. I glanced at the GPS, then at the last sign I'd passed. I was at mile 134. I'd passed 112 nearly 20 minutes earlier. "You sure about that marker?" I asked. "I'm north of there." Static swallowed my words for a second. "Yes," he said finally. "I can see it. Bent post. Numbers scratched up." The description hit me harder than it should have. I knew that marker. Bent. Scraped. Same one everyone remembered because it leaned toward the road like it was tired. "Hang tight," I said, forcing my voice calm. "I'm calling this in." I pulled my phone with one hand, dialed 911, keeping the truck steady with the other. The storm had thickened while I wasn't paying attention. Snow stacking up on the edges, wind starting to shove the trailer around. Dispatch answered, professional and quick. I relayed the call, the marker, the condition. They told me help was on the way. I exhaled, tension easing just a notch. The CB crackled again. "Please," the voice said, slower now, words dragging. "Don't leave me." "I'm not," I said into the mic. "Help's coming. Just stay with me." I considered turning around. Every instinct tugged at me to do it, to put my headlights on that shoulder to see if I could spot him. But the storm was worsening fast. Visibility dropped to maybe 30 feet. The road behind me was already half erased. Trucking logic won the argument. You don't double back blind in snow unless you want to add another emergency to the list. "I'm going to keep moving," I told him. "State patrols coming from the south. You hear me?" Static. Then a faint reply. "It's getting hard to talk." The cab felt colder suddenly, even with the heater running. I rubbed my hands together, flexed my fingers against the wheel. Outside, the world narrowed to white streaks and black tree lines. The voice came back every few minutes. Always the same words. "It's so cold. I can't move. Please, don't leave me." Each time it was quieter, slower, like the signal itself was freezing. I kept answering, kept telling him help was close, that he wasn't alone. Even when the CB hissed back at me instead of words, I kept the mic keyed, filling the silence. Around 3 a.m., the storm peaked. True whiteout. I pulled onto the shoulder and shut down, hazards blinking weakly against the snow. The cab rocked gently as wind pushed against the trailer. The smell of diesel thickened as the engine idled low, fighting the cold. The voice came again, barely audible now. "So tired," it whispered. "Just wanna sleep." "No," I said sharply, leaning toward the radio. "Stay awake. Help is there. You hear me?" Silence. Then one last transmission. "Thank you for staying." The CB went dead. Not static dead. Like the channel had been cut. I sat there a long time after that, staring at the dashboard lights, listening to the engine hum and the wind scrape snow along the side of the trailer. My chest felt tight, like I'd been holding my breath without realizing it. At dawn, the storm broke. The sky lightened from black to gray, and shapes slowly returned to the world. I eased back onto the road once visibility improved, finished the run on autopilot. When I reached my drop later that morning, I called dispatch. Asked if they'd heard anything about the stranded driver on 81. There was a pause on the line. "That's strange," my dispatcher said slowly. "State Patrol called us earlier." My grip tightened on the phone. "They did find a trucker," he continued, "frozen in his cab. Northbound Route 81. Relief flickered, then died. But," he added, "the report says it happened 15 years ago. Same mile marker you gave. Same situation." I swallowed. "That doesn't make sense. I talked to him all night." Another pause. "Name on the report," dispatch said quietly. "Matches the one you logged from the CB call." I stared out at the yard, at trucks coming and going like nothing in the world had shifted. "They never figured out how his radio was still transmitting," dispatch finished, "or why drivers still report hearing him during storms. I've crossed the Dakotas plenty of times since then. But when the snow comes down heavy and the CB crackles late at night, I keep the volume low, because some calls aren't asking for help. They're just making sure someone remembers they froze out there." I've been running freight up and down the Northeast for close to 16 years. Snow, ice, black ice you don't see until you're already sliding. I've dealt with all of it. Pennsylvania in winter doesn't scare me. Not usually. But there's a rest stop off I-80, west of Snowshoe, that I haven't pulled into since February of 2019. I don't even slow down when I pass the sign now. I keep my eyes forward and my hands steady on the wheel, like if I don't acknowledge it, it won't remember me. That night, I was hauling packaged paper goods eastbound, trying to beat a storm that had already beaten me. The snow had started light around midnight, but by 2 a.m., it was a full blizzard, thick flakes smashing into the windshield, wind cutting sideways through the trees like it was looking for something. The cab was warm, almost too warm. Diesel heat humming under my boots. The smell of stale coffee and damp wool filled the space. My hands rested heavy on the wheel, feeling every vibration from the road through the column. The world beyond my headlights had collapsed into a white tunnel. The CB was silent. No chatter. No warnings. Just the soft hiss of static that rises and falls like breathing. I was fighting fatigue more than fear at that point. Eyelids heavy, neck stiff. When the rest area 1 mile sign appeared out of the snow, I took it as a gift. I signaled, eased off the throttle, and rolled down the ramp slow and careful. The plow hadn't been through in a while. Snow packed hard beneath the tires, crunching under the weight of the rig. The parking lot was mostly empty. Just snowdrifts, dark pavement, and one other truck parked near the far edge. A sleeper cab, lights on, engine running. That didn't register as strange. In weather like that, drivers cluster up. Safety in numbers, even silent ones. I parked 2 rows over, angled my hood away from the wind, set the brakes. The sudden quiet when the engine dropped to idle felt loud in my ears. Wind rattled the mirrors. Snow whispered across the hood. I grabbed my jacket and stepped down. Cold punched me immediately, the kind that goes straight through your clothes and grabs muscle. The air smelled clean and sharp, mixed with diesel exhaust hanging low over the lot. The other truck's headlights were on low beam, pointed off toward the trees. Nothing unusual. I headed for the restroom building, boots crunching loud in the snow. The structure was concrete and glass, squat and ugly, its fluorescent lights flickering through frosted windows. Inside it was empty. No footsteps, no hand dryers, just the buzz of failing lights and the distant moan of wind pressing against the walls. The tile floor was cold through my boots. The air smelled like bleach and old water. I did what I came to do, washed my hands, splashed water on my face. When I looked up into the mirror, my eyes looked tired but normal. No dread, no warning bells. When I pushed back outside, everything had changed. The other truck's headlights were now aimed directly at my cab. High beams. The light hit me full in the face, blinding, white and harsh against the snow. For a second, all I could see were afterimages dancing in my vision. I stopped, squinting, raising a hand instinctively. "Hey!" I shouted, though the wind ripped the word apart. "Kill your lights." No response. I stood there, snow soaking into my shoulders, irritation rising. There's etiquette out here. You don't blind another driver's cab, especially in a storm. I started walking toward the truck. With every step, the feeling shifted. The wind seemed to drop away, replaced by a strange, muffled quiet, like I'd stepped into a pocket where sound didn't travel right. The snow fell slower somehow, flakes drifting lazy in the beams. When I reached the driver's side door, I looked in. No one. The seat was empty, curtains pulled back. The dash lit up, gauges glowing normal. The engine idled smooth and steady beneath the hood. Heat rolled off the grill. I tried the handle. Locked. I circled to the front, shielding my eyes from the headlights, and looked through the windshield. That's when I saw the writing. On the inside of the glass, traced through frost with a fingertip, were 4 words. "Don't look behind you." My mouth went dry so fast my tongue stuck to the roof of it. The frost around the letters was thicker than the rest of the glass. Fresh, like it had been written moments ago. From the inside, my breath fogged hard in front of my face. The cold felt different now, heavier, crawling up my spine under my jacket. Slowly, against every instinct I had, I turned my head. The restroom building was dark. Not dim, not flickering. Dark. Every light inside and out was gone. The structure reduced to a black shape against the snow. The windows reflected nothing. The doorway was just a rectangle of deeper shadow. And in that doorway, something stood. Tall, still, human-shaped but wrong in the details. Too thin in places, too solid in others. The snow fell around it but didn't seem to land on it. No breath fogged the air. No movement. No sound. It was just there, watching. The distance between us couldn't have been more than 50 yards, but it felt endless. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. Cold sweat ran down my ribs despite the freezing air. I didn't scream. I didn't run. Training kicked in, pure, automatic. I backed away from the truck, never turning my back on the thing in the doorway, step by careful step until my boot hit the side step of my rig. I turned then, climbed, fumbled the door open with shaking hands and hauled myself into the cab, slamming it shut hard enough to rattle the glass. I locked it without thinking, flipped the engine over, air pressure still good. As the engine roared to life, I risked a glance in the mirror. The other truck's headlights went out, just off. The lot beyond was empty. No truck, no building lights, no figure. I threw it into gear and rolled, tires slipping before catching, trailer fishtailing as I blasted back onto the ramp. My hands were slick on the wheel, knuckles white, eyes locked ahead. I didn't slow down until I was 10 miles down the highway. At my next stop, I called it in. Told State Patrol what I'd seen. They asked for the rest stop name. There was a long pause on the line. "That facility's been closed overnight for months," the trooper finally said. "Electrical issues. No services after dusk." "What about another truck?" I asked. "Parked there." Another pause. "No record," he said. "You sure you stopped at the right one?" I didn't answer. I still don't know what was standing in that doorway. But I know this. Every winter, when the snow comes down heavy in Pennsylvania, I hear drivers on the CB talk about rest stop lights turning on when they shouldn't. and warnings written where no one should be able to write them. I've hauled freight through places most people only see on maps. Ice roads, timber routes, two-lane highways that disappear into nothing but trees and sky. Northern Canada teaches you patience. It also teaches you respect, because if something goes wrong up there, help doesn't come fast, and sometimes it doesn't come at all. This happened in late January, just north of Fort Providence, running a refrigerated load east toward Yellowknife. Temperature sat around minus 38 degrees Celsius, colder with the wind, the kind of cold that makes metal complain and turns breath into something you can feel settle on your beard. It was just after 11:40 p.m. The sky was clear but dead black, stars sharp like glass. My headlights cut a narrow tunnel through drifting snow. The cab was warm, almost too warm. Diesel heat humming, engine vibrations steady through the seat and steering wheel. The smell inside was coffee gone bitter and the faint sweetness of coolant. CB was quiet. Up there it usually is. That's when I saw the taillights. Another rig ahead of me, maybe half a mile out, fighting the same wind and ice. His trailer swayed just a little, nothing crazy, normal for that stretch. I eased back on the throttle and flashed my lights once. Courtesy. Let him know I was there. He flashed back. White strobes blinking twice through the snow. That small thing, another human presence, took some weight off my chest. Running tandem through ice country is an unspoken agreement. You watch each other. You keep pace. You don't disappear without warning. We settled into it. An hour went by like that. Two trucks cutting parallel lines through the dark. Snow whispered across the hood. Wind hummed around the mirrors. Every few minutes I checked my gauges, oil pressure steady, temp holding. Tires singing that low, dangerous song they sing on hard ice. Then his trailer twitched. Just a twitch at first. Correction. Then another. I leaned forward in my seat, eyes narrowing. His speed hadn't changed, but the sway was getting wider. I keyed the mic. Northbound reefer behind you, roads getting slick. You all right up there? Static answered me. Long empty. His truck drifted toward the shoulder, corrected hard, then drifted again. Snow kicked up behind his tires like smoke. Easy, I muttered, more to myself than him. He slowed suddenly. Brake lights flaring red through the snow. I backed off and gave him space, hazard lights blinking. Then he pulled over. Clean and controlled. No panic. Just eased onto the shoulder like it was planned. I stopped 50 yards back, angled my hood toward the road, set the brakes. The silence after the engine dropped felt thick. The cold pressed in immediately when I opened the door, biting through my gloves. I walked toward his truck, boots crunching loud on packed snow. My breath sounded too fast in my ears. The wind carried the low idle of his engine, steady and alive. "Hey!" I shouted. "You good?" No answer. The cab light was on. That's what bothered me first. I climbed the steps and knocked on the door with my knuckles. Hard enough to feel it through the glove. Nothing. I tried the handle. Unlocked. The door swung open with a slow creak, hinges stiff with ice. He was sitting upright in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, eyes open, staring straight ahead through the windshield. His skin was blue, not pale, not gray, blue. Frost clung to his eyelashes and eyebrows. His breath wasn't fogging. His chest wasn't moving. The cab smelled wrong. Cold metal, old sweat, something faintly sweet and rotten underneath it. I didn't touch him. I didn't need to. He'd been dead a long time. Longer than an hour. Longer than the time we'd been driving together. The engine was still running. I backed down the steps slowly, my legs shaking harder than I wanted to admit. My boots slid slightly on the ice, and I caught myself on the mirror arm. That's when I saw the footprints. They circled the cab. Small, barely deeper than the snow crust. Too small to be his, too narrow to be mine. They led away from the passenger side door, across the shoulder, and into the trees. I stood there, engine noise humming behind me, staring at that dark line cut into the forest. The trees were packed tight, branches heavy with snow, shadows layered so deep they swallowed the beam of my flashlight. I didn't follow them. I went back to my truck, slammed the door shut, and locked it. My hands shook as I grabbed the phone and called it in location, description, situation. The dispatcher's voice stayed calm, professional. "Stay with the vehicle if you can," she said. I looked at the tree lean in my mirrors. "I'm not staying," I said. "I'll wait down the road." She didn't argue. I pulled back onto the highway, tires biting hard, heart pounding against my ribs. I didn't look back. I didn't slow down until I hit the next maintenance pullout, lights blazing, engine roaring like noise could keep something away. The RCMP found the truck just before dawn. They took my statement later that day, inside a warm office that smelled like paper and old coffee. I told them everything, the tandem driving, the stop, the footprints. One of the officers exchanged a look with the other. Finally, the older one spoke. "You said the engine was running?" "Yes." "And you drove with him for about an hour?" "Closer to 70 minutes. He nodded slowly. "That truck was reported abandoned 3 times before," he said. "Same stretch, same time of year." My stomach tightened. "Each time," he continued. "The driver was found frozen at the wheel, engine running, no signs of struggle." "What about the footprints?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. "Always there," he said finally. "Small, leading into the woods, never coming back out." They never found out who the driver was that night. The plates didn't match any current registration. VIN came back clean but old, too old for the condition of the truck. They asked me if I'd noticed anything strange before he started swerving. I thought about the hour we'd driven together, the steady pace, the way he'd flashed back. "I never heard him on the radio," I said. The officer nodded like that confirmed something. "I left that place before nightfall. I still run northern routes. Someone has to, but I don't drive tandem up there anymore. If I see taillights ahead of me in a snowstorm, I keep my distance. If they slow down, I slow down. If they pull over, I keep going. Because sometimes what you're following isn't trying to get somewhere. Sometimes it's just moving, and sometimes it's been dead for a very long time." I've been driving 18 years. Dry vans, reefers, hazmat once, long enough to know the difference between a bad sound and a dangerous one. Trucks talk to you if you listen. A loose strap has a rhythm. A shifting pallet has weight to it. Even ice building up underneath has its own language. This sound didn't. It happened in Vermont, early February, running a sealed drive in east toward White River Junction, then south for a morning drop. Snow had started falling before dusk, thick, wet flakes at first, then dry and sharp once the temperature dropped. By 9:30 p.m., visibility was down to maybe 2 truck lengths. Headlights carved narrow tunnels through the dark, and everything beyond them vanished into white. I was on Route 4, 2 lanes, trees packed tight on both sides, no shoulder to speak of. The cab was warm, engine steady, heater blowing that dusty hot smell you only get in winter. Coffee sat cold in the cup holder. CB was dead silent, just low static breathing between channels. That's when I heard it. A knock, not loud, not sharp, just deliberate, came from behind me, deep in the trailer. One solid thump, then nothing. I waited. Another knock followed, same spot, same pressure. My first thought was load shift. The trailer was full, boxed freight, strapped and braced, nothing hazardous. Winter roads can make things settle. I eased off the throttle, listening. The sound came again. This time it was closer together. 2 knocks, even spacing. I glanced at my mirrors. Trailer tracked straight. No sway, no bounce. Everything looked fine. I told myself it was the cold. Metal contracting, ice cracking loose. Then the knocking started to repeat. 3 beats. Pause. 3 beats again. My grip tightened on the wheel. The vibration from the road hummed up through my arms, steady and familiar. But the sound behind me didn't blend into it. It stood apart, too intentional to ignore. I keyed the mic. "Any drivers eastbound on for here, that wind picking up?" Nothing answered me, just static. The snow thickened. Road signs came out of nowhere, then vanished just as fast. My headlights caught flakes spinning sideways, like sparks. The knocking grew louder. It wasn't coming from the floor. It wasn't coming from the doors. It sounded like it was inside the walls. I slowed and signaled, pulling into a small emergency turnout barely wide enough for a rig. Set the brakes. Hazards on. The silence after the engine dropped felt wrong. Too big, too open. When I stepped out, the cold hit like a slap. Snow hissed against my jacket. My boots sank into crusted ice as I walked back along the trailer, flashlight beam shaking just a little. The trailer doors were sealed tight, seal intact, hinges frozen but solid. I pressed my gloved hand against the aluminum wall. Nothing. Then knock. My hand jerked back on instinct. The sound came from the inside, directly opposite where I stood. The metal vibrated under my palm like something had struck it from within. "Hello," I called, hating how small my voice sounded in the storm. No answer. I unlocked the doors with stiff fingers and swung them open. Cold air rushed inside, carrying the smell of cardboard and dry wood. My flashlight cut through the dark interior. Everything was exactly where it should be. Pallets strapped tight. No gaps. No damage. No signs of movement. Behind me, the knocking continued. It wasn't echoing now. It wasn't muffled. It was right next to me. I slammed the doors shut hard enough to rattle the hinges and locked them. My heart hammered so loud I could feel it in my throat. I didn't walk back to the cab. I jogged. Inside, I locked the doors, started the engine, and pulled back onto the road without waiting for the gauges to settle. The knocking didn't stop, kept pace with me. At 50 miles an hour, it knocked. 40, it knocked. When I sped up, the rhythm adjusted, like it was listening. I called dispatch. "Something's wrong with this trailer," I said, keeping my voice even. "I checked it. Load's fine. But there's a noise inside the walls." There was a pause on the line, papers rustling. "You're sealed and legal?" he asked. "Yes." "Any damage?" "No." "Then keep it moving," he said. "Weather's bad. Get it to the drop." Another knock hit the trailer, loud enough to feel through the seat. "It's not shifting," I said. "It's—" "Get it there," he repeated. "Maintenance can look at it later." The call ended. The road narrowed. Snow piled higher along the edges. The knocking grew heavier, slower now, like something was tired. Each impact sent a shiver through the cab. I tried logic. Tried to break it down. Ice between panels. Expansion. Delamination. Anything mechanical that made sense. But none of those things knock back. The sound changed near Royalton. It moved. The knocks traveled along the length of the trailer, front to back, then back to front again. Sometimes they came from above, sometimes low, like something dragging itself along the interior walls. I didn't turn the radio on. I didn't want to miss anything. Snow muffled the world outside, making the cab feel sealed off, floating through nothing. Warm air blasted from the vents, but cold sweat slicked my spine. I started counting the knocks. 3. Pause. 3. Then 4. Then 5. By the time I hit the outskirts of White River Junction, it sounded like fists hitting aluminum from every direction at once. I pulled into the distribution center just before 3 a.m. The yard lights glared down on the snow, casting hard shadows. I set the brakes and just sat there for a moment, listening. Silence. The knocking stopped the second I shut the engine down. The dock crew waved me in. I backed the trailer into the door, metal clanging as it seated. The smell of diesel hung heavy in the cold air. "Rough night?" one of the guys asked. "You could say that," I replied. They cracked the doors. The knocking started again. The dock workers froze. One of them took a step back. "What the hell is that?" another said. They opened the doors fully and shined their lights inside. Boxes, pallets, straps, perfect order. But the interior walls were scratched. Deep grooves cut into the aluminum, long and uneven, running vertically from floor to ceiling. Some overlapped. Some curved like whoever or whatever made them had slipped while trying to climb. The marks were fresh. Metal shavings glittered at the base of the walls. No one spoke for a long time. They unloaded the trailer in silence. When it was empty, the knocking finally stopped. Maintenance inspected it the next day. They found nothing wrong. No structural defects. No signs of forced entry. No explanation. I didn't argue. I signed the paperwork and left. I still run winter routes. I still haul sealed loads. But when snow starts falling and the cab gets quiet, I listen harder than I used to, because some sounds don't belong to the road. And sometimes whatever was knocking doesn't stop when the doors close. It just waits for the next storm. I've run the Northeast long enough to know what weather looks like when it's about to turn. Maine teaches you that early. The air tightens. The light goes flat. Snow doesn't surprise you up there. It announces itself hours ahead of time. That night, it didn't. I was finishing a refrigerated run out of Presque Isle, pointed south toward Portland, planning to deadhead into New Hampshire before dawn. It was late February, just past 11:40 p.m., and the weather app showed nothing but clear sky icons all the way to the border. Temperature hovering around 12 degrees. Cold but manageable. Roads dry. Salt lines still visible from earlier in the week. I'd been driving 17 years by then. Same truck for the last 4. A black Freightliner Cascadia with enough miles on it that every vibration had a name. The engine purred steady. Tires humming against asphalt. Trailer riding clean behind me. Diesel smell mixed with burnt coffee in the cab. CB low and quiet. Just a whisper of static like breathing. The snow started without warning. 1 second the road was bare, moonlight reflecting off blacktop. The next, my headlights caught flakes exploding out of the dark, thick and fast, like I'd driven straight into a cloud. Visibility dropped to maybe 50 feet. I eased off the throttle, instinctive, hands light on the wheel. "Didn't see you coming?" I muttered, glancing at the sky through the windshield. The flakes were heavy, wet, clinging to the glass before the wipers cleared them away. I checked the mirrors out of habit. That's when I noticed something wrong. The snow wasn't in front of me. Ahead, the road was still clear, dark, open, stretching into the trees like nothing had changed. The snowfall existed only behind my trailer, a dense white wall rolling along the highway exactly where I'd been seconds earlier. I watched it for a long moment, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Maybe wind direction, maybe a localized squall drifting across the road. But it wasn't drifting, it was following. I sped up slightly, 55 to 60. The wall of snow tightened its distance, keeping the same gap, about 100 feet back. I slowed down. So did it. My stomach sank in a slow, heavy way. I flipped on the weather channel. Nothing but routine forecasts. No advisories. No mentions of snow bands or squalls. I keyed the mic. "Any drivers southbound on 95 seeing snow?" Static answered me. I drove another 10 miles like that, eyes darting between the road ahead and the mirrors. The storm never moved closer, never fell back. It stayed locked behind me, churning and boiling, snow twisting in spirals that didn't match any wind pattern I'd ever seen. The air in the cab felt thicker, warmer. My palms were slick on the wheel. I called dispatch. "Hey, I'm southbound near Howland," I said. "You seeing any weather up here?" There was a pause. Keyboard tapping. "Negative," my dispatcher replied. "Radar's clear statewide." "You good?" "I've got snow," I said carefully. "Heavy snow, but it's only behind me." Another pause. Longer this time. "Say again." "It's not in front," I repeated. "It's pacing me." Silence stretched. Then, "You tired?" I looked at the clock. I had hours left on my log. I felt alert, too alert. "I'm wide awake," I said. "Well," he replied, uneasy now. "Maybe pull over and wait it out?" I looked ahead at the empty highway, then back at the storm wall riding my bumper. "I don't think stopping's a good idea," I said. I didn't explain why. I didn't need to. Something deep in my chest told me that whatever was behind me wasn't interested in a parked truck. I kept driving. Mile markers slid past. Town signs flickered in and out of my headlights. The storm followed every curve, every rise, every dip. When I took an exit ramp to test it, the snow curved with me, tightening like a leash. The CB crackled once. Just a burst of static that spiked and dropped. Then a sound came through. Not a voice. Not words. Breathing. Low. Ragged. Right against the mic. I snapped the radio off, heart hammering. The mirrors showed the storm closer now. Not by much, but closer than before. The gap shrank to maybe 70 feet. Snow churned violently, like something inside it was moving against the flow. I pushed the truck harder. 70 miles an hour. The engine growled, vibration climbing up through the seat. The road ahead stayed clear. Perfectly, unnaturally clear. Not a flake touched my windshield. But behind me, the white wall roared. Snow spinning so thick it looked solid. I crossed Bangor without seeing another vehicle. No headlights. No taillights. Just empty lanes and dead silence. My phone buzzed. No signal. The storm's edge flickered with something darker. Shapes forming and collapsing within the snow. I told myself it was just shadows. Just my eyes. Just fatigue creeping in. Then I saw a hand. It pressed out of the snow like it was pushing against glass. Fingers splayed, pale and sharp-edged. It vanished instantly, but not before I saw another beside it. And another. Handprints. Reaching. I yelled and hit the accelerator harder. The truck shook. Snow sprayed up from the rear tires, vanishing into the storm like it was being swallowed. The gap closed another 10 feet. "You're not real," I said out loud, voice steady only because I forced it to be. "You're just weather." The storm responded. A sound rolled through it, deep and layered, like wind passing through a hollow space too big to measure. The mirrors frosted at the edges, ice crawling inward despite the defrosters blasting full heat. I smelled cold then, not just winter air but something older, metallic, like frozen earth. The temperature gauge dipped. The cab warmth struggled, vents blowing lukewarm air that couldn't keep up. I'd been driving nearly 4 hours without stopping. My legs ached. My eyes burned. Still I didn't slow. Every time I considered pulling over, the storm surged forward just a little, like it sensed the thought. Around 4 a.m., fatigue started clawing at me. My hands trembled. The road ahead began to feel unreal. Too smooth, too empty. I slapped my cheek hard to stay focused. That's when I saw the state line sign. New Hampshire, welcome. It rose out of the dark like a promise. I aimed straight for it, foot buried, engine screaming protest. The storm behind me swelled, snow exploding outward, the sound growing louder than the truck itself. The moment my front tires crossed the line, everything changed. The mirrors cleared. The snow vanished, no tapering, no fading. Just gone. The roar cut to silence so sudden my ears rang. I coasted another mile before pulling onto the shoulder, shaking too badly to keep going. When I stepped out of the cab, the night was calm, cold but still. Stars visible overhead. No wind, no snow. The road behind me was dry, but my trailer wasn't. A thick layer of frost coated every inch of it, glittering under my flashlight like crystal. The frost was uneven, thicker in places, thinner in others, and pressed into it were handprints. Dozens of them, large and small, overlapping, drag marks where fingers had slid along the metal, gripping, losing hold. Some prints were smeared backward, like whatever made them had been pulled away by force. I stood there a long time, breath fogging the air, afraid to touch the trailer, afraid it might still be warm beneath the ice. I finished the run after sunrise, filed my reports, said nothing more than necessary. Dispatch never asked again. I still drive through Maine, still watch the weather, still check my mirrors more than I need to, because sometimes, when the road behind me looks just a little too dark, I swear I can see snow starting to fall, only where I've already been. And I don't slow down anymore.